Chloe Garrison. I'm here with Carrie Lake and excited to explore the topic today of ethics of the heart and AI and animal communication. We had the conversation a couple weeks ago about AI and animal communication, and now we're going to explore it from a little bit of a different angle around ethics.
It is so close to my heart. So what I want to acknowledge, like as we go into this, is there's, I mean, hundreds of years of philosophy and study of ethics that exists in humanity, and I know that the people who are building um, machine learning for animal communication are they've got their fingers deep into the ethics, because it's a sticky thing, for humans. Like, what is ethical, and do the ethics that apply to human react interactions also apply to human non-human interactions? So I just want to acknowledge, I know the people building these systems are already deep into this conversation. What I haven't heard in my limited access to those conversations is talking about how the differences in humans and animals, and how the connection with the animal kingdom truly happens through the heart. It is a felt thing, and that is the way that something is genuine. And of course, speaking from my experience and the experience with thousands of people, but what I haven't heard in the ethics conversation, people saying anything about you letting the heart be a guiding light in the ethics. Like, my question would be, how do we recognize what is common among us between humanity and the animal kingdom? And even if we don't have, tombs of writing and volumes of legalities, even if all we have is a common feeling that says, that takes me away from my heart. What if that becomes our compass?
Barometer, yeah.
Yeah, for what we would call ethics in an interspecies environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, maybe a little bit of a tangent, but it also leads me to think most of what's being created are just vocalizations right now, with some study on physical cues. But can that information, even that communication via AI, even be truly received? Like, is it being heard the way it's intended to be heard, because it doesn't have that component of the energetic of the heart, the energy coming from there?
Absolutely. That's the question. And honestly, I do think people in those realms are starting to ask these questions, which just makes me so happy. But it's a potent question. If you are even if you are playing back a whale's vocalization back to the whale, and you're thinking, wow, this is rad, because look what we can do, then it's like maybe like me going, Chloe, 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 right? And until people have an awareness, not just of what they intend from their mind, but what that intent feels like, it is that felt presence that we want to put the communication on top of. And because, I mean, how many innumerable examples are there of dogs who know their people are coming home 10 minutes before they arrive? Horses understand what mood you're in before you get out of your car, and you go into the forest, and depending on how you personally are organized, animals either run away or hang close and reveal themselves because they know there's no threat. Or you go, Native American examples, you go into the forest on a vision quest and you're out for 3 days fasting. And at some point, the reality of your being is food, sustenance is necessary, and an animal will present their body to offer as food. And in those instances, there is a felt knowing that from the benevolence of the whole, this animal is presenting, please let me feed you. Please be fed, right? Mm-hmm. So in that culture, in native cultures, there is space for that kind of awareness and that kind of relationship to be able to recognize the animal is, yes, the animal could be showing up to be a message about fear, a message about your ancestors. And the animal could be showing up to say, please be fed. And the capacity to relate in such a way that you can articulate the clarity of that, that's a felt thing. That is the communication, not just from one individual to one individual. That's the communication of the whole that says we are life, we are living together. And the ultimate expression of life is for everybody to thrive. So here, for the human to thrive, the human requires sustenance. So here comes an animal body saying, please be fed. So logical, philosophical, human analysis of ethics might not be taking these dimensions of life into account. But if we're going to be communicating and creating technology where you push a button to say, go outside or not go outside or whatever, what I know, one of the questions that want to be asked is, what are the animals' perspectives on global warming? What are the animals' perspectives on climate change? I wonder if anybody is considering that global warming and climate change are human words and constructs, right? So to me, an ethics of the heart is supporting humans first to find within themselves that very personal, intimate experience of connection with all of life. And then see if you don't change your questions, right?
Or even change your path with AI, because as it's progressing right now, to what end? Like, what is the goal? What's the use of this? Is it a human construct? But if it is, it's missing what you just spoke to.
Yes.
So to what end?
Such a good question. And I think it's a question that needs to be asked every day and revisited with every progression of technology, with every progression, keeping in mind that the human idea of ethics might be something that nature handles already in its own harmony, in the way the way life relates to itself might be the best model for ethics, but it asks humans to relate and have different living relationships with ecosystems, with a species, with our interactions with species, so that we include ourselves rather than stand out here and say, well, we don't really work the way you work, so we've got to build an external system to try to understand you. Granted, there are benefits to that, especially for people whose natural capacity to connect has perhaps atrophied, and they don't remember it and they can't feel it. So great, build the external system, but keep people on the team who have no atrophy in that department, and who have a capacity to, rather than find words that outline a system of best practices, who instead have the capacity to feel first the harmony of life and how life relates to itself, and then turn that into words that will contribute. How many ways can we reignite the actual felt experience of connection with the non-human world, and then let that inform, like you're saying, inform to what end are we building these systems? Yeah.
It almost, dominance, the word dominance comes to mind for me, because there's an assumption that even on the level of feel, right, that we can understand what it feels like for the horse to receive my energy or for the dog to receive my energy. There's just a lot of assumptions that can't be spoken to really at this point.
Especially not to turn it into a global system that anybody can plug into, because it's technology, right?
Exactly.
I saw Chrissy McDonald shared an episode from a PBS series called Nature. It's called Patrick and the Whale. And I hope everybody watches that, because he speaks to this in his relationships with the sperm whales, two girls in particular. He speaks to how the communication is something that we don't have words for. It has to be felt. And he mentions building these AI systems. He speaks to it directly, and how it's a nice beginning, but real communication must be felt. And I really feel like there's place for both of it, right? Because obviously the technology is going to be here. People are going to do it. Great. Like there's colors you put on your cat and it translates your cat's meows. Fantastic. That's fun, right? But if humans think we're going to turn toward the animal kingdom for solutions to global warming and climate change, I think we first have to ask whether or not that non-human life would speak about it the same way. Can we ask questions from outside of our own worldview and re-include ourselves in the place that is common, that might really offer a whole different approach, a whole different perspective about what's happening and how we can harmonize all of life through these changes? Like, where is the benefit to all of life, which is different than how do we fix it? So I think those fundamental questions are key to whatever we think ethics are. And it also seems to be eternally true that the only way to make a change is within one's self, one at a time anyway. So, to what end? Are we going to change all of humanity? Have fun, because it's fun to work in teams and build projects. And I love that, and at the same time, the first drop has to happen into my own heart. And what it's just been my experience, the more a person is aware of that, the experience of their heart in their own cells, it changes how you build your projects. It changes the questions you ask, changes how we work together, and it changes my capacity to actually receive communication that might have been trying to find me my whole life.
Well, I think the easiest thing to liken it to, just from like a human brain standpoint, is even just the differences in cultures between countries and language. And when you have phrases that can't be verbatim translated or interpreted word for word because the meaning has a cultural context to it.
Totally.
That is unique to that culture, which, that's what I think, that's the easiest way for me to conceptualize the idea from a verbiage standpoint. But
I love that. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're spot on with that, because then you look, there's different families of orca that each have
I
their own
was
culture. And so we've got,
exactly.
it's not even human culture, it's orca culture. And then within orca culture are all of these other cultures. And
Yes.
like one of the words I really love is unspeciated. What is it to acknowledge, okay, human, right? Keeps being true every time I look in the mirror. But what is it to be like what part of me is unspeciated? What
Yes.
realm of my own conscious awareness is not dependent on or adhered to human? And that, in my experience, that's experienced before you're anywhere close to words about
Hmm.
it. It's that place, like in the documentary with Anna Breitenbach, called The Animal Communicator, the image that comes, which I'm just so happy that this has been shared out into the world, when she's sitting with the baboons. And um, she was effectively invited to just explore the ground. And she recognized that she was invited to share that space with this male baboon, which, she could have gone a lot of different directions. But it, from an unspeciated place, she wasn't identifying as a human. She wasn't identifying as a baboon. She was
Hmm.
in the moment going, I can do that too. Like, okay, I'll do that. Okay, we are doing this. And even those words is too many words, because it
Hmm.
it is a feeling that had her hands move to the grass and and join him. Like humans might say, oh, she was mimicking, oh, mirroring, and put the words away. Her hands felt like this, and so
Yeah.
she did it. And when we do that, we welcome this whole other dimension that is absent of separation, and it can only be experienced. So I don't know, I think to me, I think I might be a broken record on this one, but I just want to encourage everybody who's working on these projects, as excited and passionate as they are about the data sets and the means of collecting data and how the data relate, and how the machines are learning and how accurate or not accurate, as passionate as we are about that, can we get curious about being similarly passionate for where the communication is already trying to find me through my own heart internally? Can we be equally passionate about the external expression and the internal knowing?
Mhm.
You know, given that each of us has our own unique capacity for that level of consciousness, great. What's yours? Right?
Right.
And you get super curious about where you are available, and then let that inform how you build your projects. That, to me, from a gestalt place, very much speaks to being able to offer intent and clarity even through external technological sound data or
Mhm.
frequency vibrational data. When you know yourself and you're like super, and again, this is already happening to some extent, whether people are aware of it or not. But when you know your own passion, your own heart, and you push the button that, is going to make the computer tell the speaker to say, hi, whale, right? When you push the button, but you know your own heart, and it's your own heart traveling down your arm, through your hand, into the button, that becomes part of the construct of communication
Mhm.
to the other species. So to me, the ethics is all about that kind of clarity and awareness. How aware are you willing to be for how your innate systems work and what you are communicating when you push a button, right? Beyond intent, there's the feeling. To me, the ethics has to be founded in self-awareness. before we go spewing technology into the ocean, even any more than we already do, right? And then the animals have a really good chance of joining us in both heartful energetics and telepathic energetics.
Oh, with more willingness and curiosity, it'd be reciprocated.
Totally. I mean, bless their hearts. I mean, the animal kingdom is already completely curious until they're like, whoa, dude, that doesn't make any sense, right? But you show up with your heart open and the animals are like, what are you?
Yeah.
Right? And
Yes.
there's just so much to be learned. I just know from my own experience that the majority of learning is through your heart and through your body.
Makes me think of the octopus. Is it the octopus teacher? My octopus teacher?
My octopus teacher. Yeah.
Yeah.
Watch that and then watch Patrick and the Whale.
Uh-huh.
They're so well done. And then watch Arrival. There's so much. Oh my God. Oh no, we could do a whole talk on Arrival. I could just
Exactly. In language.
rate. Oh my God. We should do that. That'd be fun.
That's a good one. That's a good rabbit hole.